Hi, I'm Curran, Brunswick Beacon staff writer, and this is our online coverage of the 2010 primary election. We're joined today by Brunswick County Sheriff John Ingram, who is seeking re-election for sheriff. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Well, first things first, why are you running for re-election?
Well, I'm running for re-election or election because I was appointed, so this is my first election because I believe I'm the best person for the job. I believe my record clearly stands for itself, and we have demonstrated over the past 22 months or 23 months since I've taken office as sheriff that we intend to be very aggressive on crime, particularly drugs and property crimes, which are two of the biggest problems we have in Brunswick County. And I feel like that we have put a lot of new programs in place, implemented a lot of new procedures that our office is working with, whereas we have been much more effective than past administrations as far as the crime problem in Brunswick County and working with the community. We've opened the doors to the community through our various programs, one being our Citizens Academy, and through that we have graduated 163 people through that academy and picked up numerous volunteers. It's close to 100 volunteers we have now. And that is just one way we've been able to connect with our community more. So all of these things that we've put in place, implemented, and been very aggressive on, I feel makes me a very good candidate and the best candidate for this office, and would like to continue to do so if the voters will allow me.
Okay. And you mentioned it has been about 23 months in this administration. It was in fact of May 2008. You were appointed by the Brunswick County Democratic Party's Executive Committee, or elected by them and then appointed by the county commissioners. So you mentioned the programs and procedures that you've implemented. What are some of the main changes, whether people notice them or not, that have taken place during that last 23 months of your administration?
Well, there's quite a few changes that have taken place. One being obviously the uniforms. We did that for a reason. We changed uniforms from the old polyester as well as the color. We allowed our officers to have input, our staff to have input on the type and colors, and we did that to not only give the Sheriff's Office a much needed facelift, but to improve morale. Additionally, we changed the vehicle schemes that we had. We went from the old white cars with the red and black stripes to a new black and gold theme. Incidentally, when we changed those schemes, we were able to save the taxpayers, all of us, $350 per vehicle on just a stripe scheme. We also equipped it with equipment that also saves taxpayer dollars. One being the bar light on top of the car is an LED light which can operate up to 15 hours without the engine running. So little changes that people may not be aware of, but has allowed us to be much more efficient and effective. We changed the way we operated in that we took our canines and made a separate unit out of those canines. Traditionally, they were assigned an area within the county and they were responding to calls for a 12-hour shift. The canine would get very little use, if any, and we put those canines on a power shift during peak hours and put them in what we consider our troubled communities, our troubled areas, some having high crime rates, others being known for drug areas. Whatever it may be, we put those canines in those areas targeting the criminal element, and that has allowed us to be very effective, particularly in our drug areas, to reduce that activity, eliminating a lot of it, and allowing it for those people, those good people living in those communities, to be able to enjoy their homes and neighborhoods like anyone else. Because of that. Another thing that we have initiated is our investigative task force. That's a task force where I, as a sheriff, swore in all of the investigators with the various municipalities that have a police department, and we formed collectively what we call the Brunswick County Investigative Task Force, and that is allowing us to be much more effective. The investigators that were once tied to just their city limits now have jurisdiction to come out into the county and work with our investigators to help solve more of these crimes. A good example of how that task force works would be here in Charlotte. We had a couple of drugstore break-ins not too long ago. The task force working together, we were able to make an arrest and recover right at 12,000 pills. So that's just one good example. It brings us to another good thing that we have implemented, which would be our satellite substations. We opened up one in Calabash, and we received that building for basically donated $1 a year contract, and we provide many of the services that we do at our headquarters in Bolivia. We gun permits, pistol purchase permits, concealed carries. You can meet with investigators. Our investigators that once were working out of Bolivia but assigned to the southern end of the county, now they're working out of the southern end of the county. They can spend more of their time working in these areas that they're assigned to, as well as meeting with the victims. It's much more convenient for our victims to be able to meet with them. Our civil and warrant officers work out of the substations as well, and our uniform division, our patrol division, they work out of those substations. So we've had quite a bit of change over the past few months, and it hasn't always been the easiest thing to do, but we felt that it was the right thing to do in the long run, regardless of how difficult the undertaking was. And I truly believe that it certainly has the Sheriff's Department on the right track now.
Also, since 2008, we talked about the different procedures, the new programs. It sounds like there's some really good things happening there at the Sheriff's Office, but ultimately, you know, your main goal would be to keep the community safe. Can you elaborate on the increases, or have there been an increase in the number of arrests that have been made under the 23 months of your administration?
Yes. During my 23 months, the one thing that we've been very consistent on is the drug roundups. The drug roundups, we've conducted 4 major undercover operations where we've arrested over 300 individuals for various drug crimes, and not targeting just the low-level dealers, but mid and upper-level dealers as well. We, in 2007, there was approximately 2,700 total arrests made with the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office. In 2009, there was 5,800. That didn't happen by accident. That came from very hard work, people dedicated, knowing their jobs, and working together to make this happen. These arrests came from increased arrests from our investigators as far as property crimes and violent crimes. It came from our drug unit being very aggressive, also moving our canines out into their own shift where they could be very aggressive and put the canines to good use. All of this coming together, all of these things that we have talked about has made this really work, and I'm very proud of that statistic.